My name is Gasia, Mikaelian, and I'm coming to you through KTVU Fox 2 News, serving the San Francisco Bay Area. Today, we're talking about women and money. Very important topics. I'm excited to bring to the conversation Michelle Connell, Chartered Financial Analyst and head of Portia Capital Management. Thanks for being with us, Michelle.
Thanks for having me, Gasia.
As we talk about women and money, you say that women relate to money in a different way than men do when it comes to spending, when it comes to saving, when it comes to investing.
Yes, we do. We typically are much more cautious. We approach risk very differently than men. Men always are half glass full, looking at the upside risk. How much can I make from this investment? So think right now during COVID, all the Robinhood investors, all the men are like out there buying technology stocks. Women are more cautious. Maybe it's by nature or DNA, I don't know. We look at the downside. How much are we going to lose? Which is good, but we have to balance it out and see the upside as well as the downside.
Because I imagine if I'm too careful, then I'm leaving opportunities on the table that could end up benefiting me and my family.
Definitely, because the only way you're going to be able to have enough money to retire is if you are putting money into the stock market, which obviously has risk, and to others areas of the investment world also, especially nowadays when a money market is making you less than 0.5% and a corporate bond, if you're lucky, is making you 2.5%, 3%. A portfolio really needs to be making you 7-8% a year so that you can reach your goals.
So what do you say to women who are new to investing when you meet them for the first time?
Don't be overwhelmed by the subject. Women in general seem to be thinking it's very difficult, and so they just close their brain off to it. There was a study recently from millennials. 1 in 4 millennials thinks that they won't even broach finance or investing. They're like, it's too difficult. I'm not going to even try it. That's not the case. Educate yourself. Listen to some different podcasts or news programs and start reading. What it's really about, Gasia, is asking questions. For me, even after 20 some years, I think the best thing that you can learn, you're not going to know everything, especially these days where our investment world is so big and beyond the United States. Ask questions. Don't sit there mum and not, thinking that this person's an expert. It's your money. You ask, and that's going to empower you.
Right. And it's funny because my husband and I, and we have 2 small children, we have a financial advisor. She is a woman. And when I talk to her, I say things like, these 2 boys are maybe going to go to college one day. I need to save for them. Or I put it in very human, real terms. And I say, oh, we might want to move, so we can have a house with a yard. And she says, oh, I made that move when my son turned 12. So I feel like I'm having a conversation. It is not, terms and acronyms that I don't understand. And that makes such a difference to me.
I think that's a good way to approach it. That's known as goals-based investing, where you're actually talking about, in your case, I want my sons to go to college. What do I need to do so, I can actually achieve that for them, and I don't have to worry about picking the least expensive. I want them to have options. Thinking in terms of goals and working backwards. And that helps you determine what that portfolio allocation really needs to be if you're going to achieve those goals.
Let's talk now sort of on the other end of things. There are many, many Americans, and many women in particular, who do not have the luxury of planning for retirement because they're living in the day-to-day. As we examine the effects the COVID-19 pandemic have had and is having on American women in the workforce in particular, the disparity between women working, what women are paid as you compare them to men, continues to grow.
That's very true, unfortunately. You're looking at working mothers, 1 in 4, I think it's 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 are saying that they are probably going to drop out of the workforce because they're juggling working with the Zoom education, or maybe part Zoom, part, actually in school. And then you have another 15% that are saying they're going to dial back their career. So that means you're going to have those women are going to have a lot less money going into investments. And then we also have the issue that a lot of preschools are closing. I'm involved with a charity here in Dallas-Fort Worth. We build preschools in marginalized areas. During COVID, 52% of our preschools have closed. How is that going to affect a working mother, that doesn't really have options? Probably they're going to drop out of the workforce and they're going to get further behind financially. And then on top of that, like for someone like me, a lot of women are taking care or overseeing their elders, their parents, their aunts, their uncles. That's taking time. So you may have to dial back your career for that, and maybe also spend some money to help them at the same time. So, we're juggling so much as caregivers, we're not taking care of ourselves.
Right. It's, sort of juggling is one of our strengths, but yet it can end up hurting us in ways that we hadn't intended. Let's talk on a very sort of person-to-person level. When I was growing up, my parents, we were pretty much middle class. We didn't have, we had everything we needed and some of the things we wanted, but my parents were very clear in saving, planning for the future. My friends got cars for their 16th birthday. I think I got a sweater. But one of the best things my parents ever did for me is, because my older one is in middle school now, this is like so fresh in my mind. My sister and I, who's a year and a half older, they gave us a clothing allowance. And my parents said, you have $200, this is back in the 80s, for the whole school year. If you want to buy the $50 Guess jeans and use up a quarter of your clothing allowance, great. Or you can go to, Miller's Outpost and buy a couple pairs of $15 jeans. And they left that choice to us. Can I tell you how much of an impact it made on me to know at a very young age that there is no money tree in the backyard and that I was in charge of my financial decisions? I tell this story to everyone who will listen, and it means so much to me to have parents who cared enough to set those limits and to set that kind of learning early. I can only assume this is something you recommend parents, and especially women, do.
I agree with that. And you are blessed, by the way. Most parents do not work that way. It's easier, especially with everything, again, that they're juggling, just to say, okay, you need that iPad. Okay, here you go. Or you need to upgrade your phone. I mean, I have a lot of friends, their kids have better technology and they're dealing with, much older generation, so their kids can have everything new. They're not doing their children any favors, obviously, because by the time they get out of school, they have no concept of what a budget is. I'm seeing that a lot, even, teaching at University of Texas in Dallas. People don't know how to budget. And these are, business students, for Pete's sake. And so they don't have any idea of, okay, there's a finite amount of investments, or money. What am I going to do with this? And what do I need to put that away in the future? So maybe I can buy that car. And so instead now I'm buying the sweater.
Right. And to think that when you're teaching at UT Dallas, you're getting what I call fully formed adults. It is so hard to change your thinking at age 22 and all of a sudden become a saver versus, if I'm told at age 12 that I have to decide between the expensive jeans and the less expensive jeans, now I'm already kind of working that muscle. So when I am dealing with thousands instead of hundreds, it's not as hard.
I think you're exactly dead on. I think we should also put more financial literacy into the schools. Yes. And I'm not talking high school, I'm talking earlier than that, so that there's a concept of, you have to live within a budget, and also so that children that may not have exposure to the investment world start seeing those things are an option. There is a stock market out there. There are other things available to me, because we have so few women and minorities. Actually, we have less women and minorities now going into finance than we did in 1997 when I got my CFA. It concerns me. So we need to start showing children early, money's a good thing. Money's, can be limiting, but also it's fun, it's challenging, and here's an option for you.
Yeah. And it can work for you, and having, just, my financial papers, it's like everyone. I think there's a lot of fear of losing jobs, a lot of fear of salaries being reduced. And every time I start to spin out of control about that, my husband says, wait, let's look at the facts. And he'll pull out those papers, from the back drawer. And he says, here's what we're saving. Here's what we're spending. If the unforeseen happens, here is our cushion. And just seeing those numbers helps me kind of come back to reality, because without the facts in front of you, we all imagine that we're going to be, out on the streets tomorrow.
Sure. But seeing those things and those numbers in front of you on a statement, I'm sure it gives you a level of comfort that, yes, we may have some uncertainty in front of us, especially now during the pandemic, for a lot of families, a lot of working couples. But we know that we have this amount of dollars. We need to be more careful, but we have this cushion here. And if some uncertainty faces us, we're going to be okay.
Yeah, it helps so much. Finally, as we wrap this up, are there any online resources that you would like to point our viewers to who perhaps are just now starting to think about doing a little bit better with their money, perhaps hiring, a financial advisor, or even doing what they can personally on their own?
I don't think there's anything, it may sound highbrow, but it's not. If you just go on, basic, look at Bloomberg every day, go to the Bloomberg website. They've got great stories, and a lot of them are maybe finance related, but they're also personal finance related and also lifestyles. Wall Street Journal is also the same. Even Yahoo Finance has a lot of great, personal finance tips. So those would be my go-tos to start educating yourself and start formulating some questions, and ask yourself, what are my goals? What am I spending? What am I going to need in the future? And in order to get to that, how much am I going to have to make on my investments? And that will tell you where you need to invest and what kind of risk you need to take.
Yeah, it's a little bit of work up front that can pay off for years or even decades on down the road.
Exactly.
Well, Michelle Connell, it's been a joy talking with you. Thank you so much. Michelle Connell, CFA, head of Portia Capital Management. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.